Thank you for tuning in to the Judo Chop Suey podcast. I'm adding this note before the episode starts to let you all know that the audio in the first 20 minutes or so is a little bit off and wonky. I tried my best to fix it, but this is the best that I could do with the tools that I have. So with that, please enjoy episode 67 of the Judo Chop Suey podcast. Greetings and salutations, everybody out there in podcast land. This is the Judo Chop Suey podcast, and I'm your host, Judo Dave Roman, on this very special edition of the post-World Championships episode. At least that's what I'm calling it. So this episode will be dedicated to all post-championships discussion, including the Marius Vizer Q&A. Lots of big news happening in the world of judo, so I'm not going to waste any time. I want to get right to it. And listen, if you've been following my social media, you've been following me on @LaVitaJudoka on Twitter or @LaVitaJudoka on Instagram, I think many of you are going to figure out and know already what I'm going to lead with regards to the World Championships and what division. Now, normally when I do these type of post-tournament reviews, I like starting from the lighter weights on all the way up to the heavier weights, but I am going to start with the under 81 kilo division, and that's for good reason. And for good reason that with regards to what happened on the mats, but a bigger reason of what's happening off the mats. So let's start with the most important thing here. Saeid Muki of Israel is now your under 81 kilo world champion. Now, before I get into some of the details of this match and some of the fallout of this match, this was the only division, well, this and the under 63 kilo division was the only division where I watched the elimination rounds. Given that I'm in the East Coast of the United States and obviously where Tokyo is, I believe there's about an 11-hour difference in time. Actually, I just double-checked. It's actually a 13-hour difference in time. So many of the elimination matches started when I was sound asleep, and I was not willing to wake up and watch those matches in the middle of the night. I did wake up for these under 81 and under 63 kilo in elimination matches because I happened to have a hard time sleeping that night. I think I woke up at 3 in the morning, and I was just like, you know what, screw it. I'm just going to sit there and watch the World Championships until I have to go to work at 8 o'clock. So that's exactly what I did, and I was exhausted that day, but I was treated, as soon as I turned on the TV, I was treated to the Saeid Mollaei and Kazan Kalmarzaev round 4 matchup, and what a fantastic match that was. But I'm going to get into Saeid Mollaei in a little bit. I want to talk about Saeid Muki and give him his due because he is the under 81 kilo world champion, and what a great run that he had that day. I got to tell you, I think I predicted that Frank DeWitt was going to walk away with this world championship, but he ended up getting bounced out pretty early. So Saeid Muki ended up fighting Matthias Kasse, and he managed to get a score within about 2 minutes and 30 seconds of their matchup. I thought Saeid Muki had Kasse in control throughout this entire match. I didn't think he was in any way, shape or form threatened by Kasse. And I'm not taking anything away from Kasse because he is the silver medalist of the World Championships. But I could just tell right away that there was no way that Saeid Muki was going to lose this match. Now Muki ended up earning a Wazari Awasete Ippon via Ippon Seoinage toward the very end of that match. Now, I think had he not gotten the score earlier in the match, that this particular throw would have certainly earned him an Ippon, in my opinion. Now, I'd like to add with regards to Muki and his path to the final of the World Championships, I gotta say, I really think that his path was not as difficult as certainly other people had to face who earned their gold medals. I don't believe he faced anybody in the top 20 all the way up to his final with Kasse. Now, I'm not certain what Kasse's ranking was before the World Championships. Now he's currently ranked number 3. Now, for the bronze medal winners, Luka Daze of Georgia defeated Saeid Mollaei of Iran, and Antoine Valois Fortier of Canada defeated Mohamed Abdelal of Egypt. Now, I want to make a quick note about Mohamed Abdelal and his despicable actions at the World Championships. So Sagi Muki had to defeat Abdelal in the semifinal in order to reach the gold medal match, and Abdelal, quite frankly, was not really a good matchup for Muki. Muki just throughout the entire rest of the day with all of his opponents, handled them with relative ease. Now, granted, look, I know, at this level, there's no such thing as an easy matchup. I get that. But, I think you guys know what I'm talking about. So at the end of their matchup, when the referee declares the winner and you're supposed to ray off the mat, Abdelal, for whatever reason, decided to not only not shake Sagi Muki's hand at the end of the match, but he barely rayed to him once he was declared the winner. And I have a real problem with that. I don't have a problem so much with the lack of handshake because that's not in the rules, but certainly bowing to your opponent when he is declared the winner, or if you're declared the winner, it doesn't matter. You're supposed to bow to your opponent, and then you step off the mat, and then you bow before you walk away to the mat. Those are the rules of judo. That's been in place for over 100 years now. And I think it's despicable that Abdelal just nodded his head a little bit and walked away. Now, I don't think this is quite the same situation that Saeid Mollaei is facing with Iran. I think for Mohamed Abdelal, it looked personal to me. Maybe it's not. Maybe he's also getting threatened by the government to not acknowledge Israel or an Israeli in any context. But he did fight him. But, I have a real problem with the lack of the ray, because it is a privilege to compete on the IJF World Tour. It's not a right. And if Abdelal has a problem with bowing to his opponent, if he's an Israeli, if he's got a problem with that, he doesn't have to compete in the IJF World Tour, nor does he have to go to the Olympics to fight for Egypt. It's a privilege. He doesn't have to go. Sagi Muki, the person, has done nothing to Mohamed Abdelal. And in my view, hatred, racism, and anti-Semitism have no place on the IJF World Tour. That was a disgrace, and I hope the IJF takes a stand against this, and I'm sure they will. Now, I am spending a lot of time on the under 81 kilo final, and I really hate to say this, but it's my podcast, so I'm going to go ahead and say it. Matthias Kasse's silver medal is tainted. It's tainted because it should have been Saeid Mollaei in that final matchup, and it wasn't, because the Iranian government was threatening Saeid Mollaei and his family on that day. Literally, he was getting phone calls on the sideline from government officials of Iran to pressure him to lose against Kassé and to lose the bronze medal matchup that he had against Luka Vizer of Georgia. Now, unlike Sagi Muki, Saeid Mollaei had a pretty tough road heading into the semifinals. He had to go through Kazan Kalmarzaev, and he also had to go through Antoine Valois Fortier of Canada, who are both very strong judoka. So Saeid Mollaei ended up losing to Matthias Kassé in the semifinal, and that match went into golden score, and I thought at the time that Kassé had won that matchup fair and square. And Kassé caught him in golden score via Juji Katame. However, it was quite evident that in the bronze medal match that Mollaei had simply lost all motivation. Now, I saw that from a couple of athletes over this past week when they were in the bronze medal match instead of what they expected to be in the gold medal match. I'm looking at you there, Aaron Wolf. But it appeared that Mollaei had essentially given up that match in the bronze medal match. So at first, like I said, I thought that Mollaei was giving a great effort in the semifinal to try and get to the final, where he knew he was going to face Sagi Muki going into that matchup. He knew it. And I thought, wow, Mollaei is actually going to fight Sagimuki. There's no way he's going to lose to Kase. But he eventually did. And then, so here's the story that broke about a day or two after the 81 kilo final wrapped up. Saeid Mollaei is now seeking asylum in Germany. Now, news of this broke on a couple of news websites written in Farsi and one in Hebrew, so I had to use Google Translator. And by the way, I appreciate the poster on Reddit that shared the articles. I must give him credit. Now, I wasn't sure of the validity of the story, so I reached out to the IJF. I certainly reached out to Marius Vizer on his Twitter, knowing that his Q&A was coming up, which was earlier today. So as you know, I'm recording this on September 2nd. Now, on September 1st, the IJF released a video of Saeid Mollaei explaining his situation, and it turns out, like I said earlier, he was being pressured by government officials. He had friends calling him, saying that government officials were at his father's house, putting pressure on him and his family. This is a really despicable situation, and I don't care what your feelings are on Israel or what your feelings are on Middle East politics. The fact remains that Israel is a free country and Iran is not. And Saeid Mollaei is not a free man, and he is not free to pursue his dreams, which should be the basic fundamental right of every human being on this planet. Shame on Iran. I mean, I am so disgusted by this. Saeid Mollaei is a great personality, and he was a great under 81 kilo champion, and he should have the right to face Sagimuki to determine who the true world champion for the under 81 kilo division is. I cannot stress that strongly enough, and it really makes me angry, and it really makes me upset. If you watch the video, I encourage all of you who are listening to this to go on the IJF's website or their Twitter account and watch the video of Saeid Mollaei giving an interview. I've shared it on all of my social media. The video nearly brought a tear to my eye. This guy is in fear of his life. And the IGF had a signed agreement with Iran that this was not going to happen any longer. And I hope the International Olympic Committee is taking a look at this, because Iran does not deserve to be in the Olympics next year. So it looks like Saeid Mollaei is going to be fighting in the future under the refugee flag, which I'm going to venture to guess that's the IJF banner. And kudos to the IJF and Marius Vizer for doing the right thing here, really the only thing, and giving him as much protection as possible. Now, I don't know what kind of protections will be in place for the rest of his family. You know, which, by the way, I don't know if you guys saw this either. The Iranian judo team did not fly to Tokyo. So it turns out that Saeid Mollaei was in Tokyo a week before the rest of the team was supposed to arrive. And at the last minute, the Iranian Judo Federation cited quote-unquote visa problems as the reason why they could not make it to the World Championships, which is a bunch of baloney. You know, and there's another thing I'd like to add too. Turns out that the article by the Jerusalem Post written by Elon Einhorn, he was right. He was spot on the entire time. He caught wind of this story early, and the Jerusalem Post was accurate. Now, I reached out to Mr. Einhorn on via Facebook Messenger, and he told me that because I congratulated him on such an accurate story written several months ago, and he told me that he's personally trained with Sagimuki and Oren Smagda, as well as being a part of the international or the Israeli national team, which I didn't know that he was a judoka himself. I had no idea when I reached out to him initially. So kudos to him for being on top of the story and having the truth of what was actually going to happen well ahead of everybody else knowing, regardless of what the IJF signed agreement said. So look, I think I've said enough about this under 81 kilo final and what I think is the biggest story coming out of the World Championships. And I think this is the biggest story coming out of the World Championships because this has nothing to do with winning and losing. This is a matter of life and death for Saeid Mollaei and his family. And as far as I'm concerned, Iran does not deserve Saeid Mollaei. All right, so moving on to a much lighter tone here. I want to cover the under 63 kilo final matchup. And that was between Clarissa Begnenu of France versus Miku Tashiro of Japan. And this was an amazing final. I thought maybe Tina Turstenjak might have ended up into the final, but she ended up getting into the bronze medal match. But this final matchup lived up to the billing. As far as excitement, the home crowd in Tokyo was fired up for it. And this match went into 7 minutes and 11 seconds into golden score until before a winner could be determined, and it ended up being Clarissa Begnenu. She ends up winning her 4th world championship, which is just a remarkable achievement. And if I'm not mistaken, I do believe that I predicted that she would win this division. So I'm not really very surprised. She won it in spectacular fashion, where she was being about to be thrown with an Ouchigari, and then she managed to get out of the throw and immediately follow up with an Osotogari. So Tashiro ends up with the silver medal, which I gotta say, and I'm gonna cover this a little bit later on in the episode. Japan did not have as great a day as one would think in these World Championships, considering that they are in their home country. They only came away with 4 gold medals, which I know I'm saying only har, right? But I would have suspected that given that they were in their home country, that they would have walked away with a lot more gold medals. They certainly had a ton of silver medals, that's for sure. But there was a lot of Japanese in the final in final matches where they just did not win. So in one of the bronze medal matchups, it was an all Netherlands matchup with Jules Fransen defeating Sanne Vermeer. Well, I usually say of the Netherlands, but I just said that. But in the other bronze medal contest, you had Martina Trajdos winning the bronze via Fusengaichi, because Tina Turstenjak in her previous semifinal matchup against Miku Tashiro ended up getting a Hansoku Maki for doing a Wakigatami in that contest. The decision for Hansoku Maki went to video review, and it was pretty clear after looking at the replay that what Turstenjak did to Tashiro with her arm was dangerous, to say the least. I mean, sure, one could argue whether it was a true Wakigatami, but that angle and that action, I think the referees made the right call there. So I think I want to cover cover the divisions a different way. I'm going to probably jump around a bit. I want to jump to the plus 100 kilo final. And I got to say, and I am not kidding when I say this, that was the most exciting final I have ever watched, where nobody threw anybody. And I'm serious. If you actually watch that final for 7 minutes or however long, because it went into golden score, the drama, the excitement of whether or not anybody was going to throw and give an inch or whatever the case may be, it was almost breathtaking. I was at the edge of my seat. So Lucas Krpalik is your plus 100 kilo world champion, and he defeated Hawasawa of Japan, who I thought was going to win the world championships. And I gotta say, seeing Hawasawa lose this world championship and seeing Hawasawa lose against Renair, the Japanese do not and will continue to not have an answer for this division. Hawasawa is a great judoka, and I can't even believe I'm going to sound like I'm bashing somebody for getting silver at the World Championships or at the Olympics. And I'm not bashing Hawasawa. I just don't think the Japanese have an answer at that division. And when it comes to the Olympics next year in Tokyo, I still don't think the Japanese are going to have an answer. Hawasawa is the best that they got, and he just doesn't seem like the kind of guy that can get over the hump. And it's crazy for me to even say that. And, the thing is, looking at that game plan against Krpalik, it seemed like Hawasawa's strategy was either Uchimata or Ouchigari. That was his strategy. And to get into that, to that position, to make one of those throws work, and it looked like Krpalik was ready for it. And another thing that I want to add with this matchup, and you could say the same for a lot of the finals and bronze medal matches that I watched, the referees let these guys fight. They let them the referees did a fantastic job throughout this entire tournament, and especially with regards to giving out penalties, they did not want the call to be the deciding factor for a medal. And in that, and I thought that was evident in this plus 100 kilo final. I thought the referees let some penalties slide, but they were not willing to give the third Shido very quickly. They let them decide the outcome of the match on the tatami. So congratulations to Lucas Krpalik for winning gold. In the one bronze medal match, it was Roy Meyer defeating Guram Tushishvili, who I thought would be one of the favorites to end up in the final if it wasn't going to be Hawasawa. But my goodness, I mentioned this earlier about Aaron Wolf. Tushishvili in this bronze medal match looked very unmotivated and completely uninterested. Tushishvili lost earlier in the semifinal to Hawasawa. And I gotta say, the call that went against Tushishvili when Hawasawa threw him with Ogoshi, that was a hometown call. I didn't like that call one bit. It should have been a Wazari. And I just felt that was one of those situations when it comes to continuation that I just didn't think it was the right call. I mean, these referees did a phenomenal job in this tournament, in my opinion. But I would venture to guess that if the referee saw that match again, he might want that back. Yeah, and as a matter of fact, when I'm watching this back all over again, the referee called Ippon, and then he signaled for Osai Komi for a timer, and he never waved off the Ippon with his hand signal and made it a Wazari. So I don't know what happened there. There's a lot of confusion. And I double and triple checked to make sure that he did call Ippon, and he certainly did. And not only that, everybody in the arena thought he called Ippon because you could see a scoreboard in the background show Ippon for Hawasawa. So clearly, Tushishvili was disappointed with losing to Hawasawa, and he did not give very good effort in that bronze medal match. Now, in the other bronze medal match, you had Rafael Silva of Brazil losing to Minjong Kim of South Korea, and that match had a lot of action. I watched that one live, and Kim had a very nice ouchigari, kind of like a shovey waza, really. I mean, he kind of hooked the leg and pushed him down, but it was clearly an Ippon. So congrats to Minjong Kim of South Korea for gold. Now, I said I'm going to jump around a bit. I want to jump around to the player who I thought, if there was an MVP of the tournament, the most outstanding player or whatever you want to, most valuable player, or I don't want to say valuable, but you know what I mean, an MVP, Shohei Ono of the under 73 kilo division was it. He was dominant all day, and I just think he was the best single player on throughout the entire World Championships. His day started off by defeating Miklos Ungvari in little over a minute with Uchimata. He stayed on his feet, too, for good measure, which I thought was pretty impressive. And, of course, with Ungvari, it's no surprise because I think he's like 52 years old or something like that. I'm kidding. But he is up there in age. He's an old man when it comes to high-level athletes. He's 38 years old. And it's amazing that he can still compete and hang at that level. But clearly he was outclassed by Ono. Next up for Ono was Yunus El Slaman of Jordan, ranked number 85, and he was thrown in a minute with another Uchimata for Ippon. Then next up for him was Bilal Sidoglu of Turkey, who after the tournament, he's ranked number 16 now. He was beaten with Juji Yatami after a failed Sutemi Iwaza attack by the Turkish fighter. The ref, for people that complain that the refs don't give enough time for mat work on the ground, he must have given Ono like 35 seconds to work out that Juji Gatami. Now, maybe that's just the hometown discount there, but Ono was given plenty of time to work that arm free. He was working toward it. It wasn't fake effort or anything like that. He was working toward it, and he eventually got that arm. I mean, I suppose even the strongest person in the world, you're going to give up if you're fighting for 30 seconds on that arm. Now, in Ono's semifinal match, he was matched up with Denis Ayaksev of Russia, who was thrown with a beautiful-looking Tomonagi. And unlike some of these other throws that I've seen in the tournament, I was stunned that this one wasn't called for Ippon. I thought it was Ippon worthy, but Ono went straight into the Keisekatami for the Wazari Awaseta Ippon. And in the final of the under 73 kilo division, Ono met up with Rustam Orzhov of Azerbaijan, and he threw him in a little over a minute with Uchimata as well. And the crowd goes wild. And Ono walks around as if it's business as usual for him, which for somebody of his skill set and caliber, it probably was. Now, Orzhov is no slouch either. He's a high quality opponent, and Ono dispatched him like he was throwing me out there. Now, for the bronze medal matches, one of them took over 11 minutes to decide, but Haydarov of Azerbaijan defeated Makhmadikov of Tajikistan. And in the other bronze medal match, Denis Ayartsev of Russia manages to defeat Benruzi Kozajogda of, I'm sure I butchered that name, also of Tajikistan. Now, I'm going to jump down to another division that caught my eye throughout the week. The under 48 kilo division was won by Daria Biludid, and for good measure, we have a controversy here. I'm going to call it Hairgate. But before I get into that, I want to talk about the gold medal match that she had against Funa Tonaki of Japan. It was a really, really exciting matchup. The crowd was really into it, and Biludid, my goodness. I don't know how tall she is or how short Tonaki is, but she looked like a giant out there compared to Funa Tonaki. Now, in this match, one thing that really caught my attention was Biludid's gripping strategy against Tonaki. It appeared that she was either going for the sleeve and waiting to attack once she got her strong lapel grip, or she was going for the 2-on-1 Russian grip. It was really interesting strategy because it was clear she was doing one or the other. And regardless of whether it was one or the other, it appeared to me that Funaki had no real answer for Biludid's gripping or her length in terms of her ability to reach with her long legs. Now, I kind of talked about Hairgate just a few moments ago. So here's the thing. In one of her earlier matches against Laura Martinez Abdelenda of Spain, she threw her for Ippon with Osotogari, except it was pretty clear she had a fistful of hair, of Martinez's hair in her hand when she threw her for Osotogari. And then when she got the score, she immediately let go and put her hand on the back of her lapel. And that was not the only time in the match that she grabbed her hair. I don't know why she was doing it. It didn't seem like the Spanish fighter's hair was done up in such a way that it was going to cause a lot of interference. And I don't know why she did it or felt the need to do it, but it did look deliberate to me. And I know a lot of people were up in arms about that not being called the Hansukumaki against Biludid, but you know what I'm about to say, I don't live this way myself, but to me, when it comes to competitive sports, when everything counts and is on the line, it's only cheating if you get caught. And in this instance, Biludid didn't get caught. So, well, from the ref's point of view, she wasn't cheating. Now, I do think moving forward, she's got to be really careful with about doing that, or she should never do that again, because you can bet that the referees are going to keep an eye on her from here on out. So in the bronze medal matches, Distria Krasniki of Kosovo defeated, who I was just talking about, Laura Martinez Abdelenda of Spain. And in the other bronze medal competition, Utsanseseg Monkbot of Mongolia defeated Melanie Clement of France. For me, I was not surprised to see Biludid win this and end up in the final. I think I called that in my previous episode, so I got that prediction right. Now, moving on to the under 52 kilo results, we finally, after a year plus, get the match that we have all been waiting for, or at least the match I've been waiting for. Majlinda Kelmendi versus Uta Abe, and it certainly lived up to the hype. The match goes into golden score. Abe gets a Kouchigari in golden score, but Kelmendi avoids giving up the score. She manages to land on her stomach, but Abe has a really good control of her arm, and she does not give up in the Newaza situation. So she turns her over and manages to secure, after some effort trying to get her leg free, Yokoshio Gatame. And as soon as she did that, the crowd went wild. And really, after about 5 seconds, Kelmendi was thoroughly exhausted, and she pretty much just laid there. And I've been in that situation. When you're caught, and you know you're not going to get out, certainly not in the 20 seconds it takes to score any pawns. So there you go, the match we've all been waiting for. I won't even go into trying to describe it too much because it's one of those must-see. Even if you already know the outcome of the match, it's a must-see match. Now, Uta Abe ended up facing Kutuzina of Russia in the final, and Abe threw her with a huge Sore Surikomi Goshi for a pawn shortly after the match started. It seems like it was like 30 seconds and she was already on her back. And of course, once again, the crowd goes wild to have a gold medal winner representing Japan. And Uta Abe that's 2 world championships in a row for her. So great job on her. And now, speaking of Abe, I want to go to the under 66 kilo division where Hifumi Abe did not win the gold medal. The gold medal went to his teammate Maruyama Yoshiro Maruyama, sorry about that, who defeated Lim Won Kim of South Korea. Now, Abe ends up getting a bronze medal, defeating Lombardo of Italy with an Ogoshi. Now, this goes back to, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but I don't know how Japan handles its determination for who gets representation in the Olympics. It's possible that with Maruyama winning gold in this division, that Hifumi Abe, for as great as he is, may not represent Japan in the Olympics. And a similar situation happened in the plus 78 kilo division. I'll get to that later, but I want to finish up with the under 66 kilo division. So, like I said, I don't know how Japan makes those decisions, but it's quite possible that Maruyama ends up representing Japan in the under 66 kilo division in Tokyo next year. Now, the other bronze medal goes to Denis Fierro of Moldova, who defeated Yondan Paraleni of Mongolia, hopefully I got that name right, with a beautiful front Uchimata for Ippon. Now, I think the front Uchimata is one of those throws that used to be called commonly the I can't remember the name. For the longest time, people were commonly calling it I can't remember his name. Anyway, moving on. So, front Uchimata, a lot of people used to call it Uranage. Gosh, I wish I could remember the name that other people call it by, but I just can't. So, front Uchimata. It was really a fantastic throw. And it's my understanding that Kodokan is now classifying this type of throw as Uchimata. I don't know where I read that, but I know I read that somewhere. Anyway, moving along. Canada gets their first World Judo Champion in history. Krista Delgucci, representing Canada, defeated Tsukasa Yoshida of Japan in the under 57 kilo division. Now, this is one of those situations where I was talking about in my previous episode where athletes switch nations and they do so in order to have a better chance at winning a medal. Now, while this may be true for Canada, some people out there are thinking, well, she's not really Canadian because she didn't come up through the Canadian ranks. She was over in Japan and then moved to Canada. But the thing is that her father, I believe, is Canadian, or she certainly has Canadian relatives. So at least the tie is certainly there. It's not like Krista Delgucci is representing Egypt or something like that. And, like I said before, I'm not a big fan of athletes switching countries to medal chase, but I think this situation's a little bit different because she truly does have Canadian ties. So Yoshida Tsukasa gets the silver medal. In the bronze medal match, at least one of them, Rafaela Silva of Brazil defeated Sarah Leone Siski of France. She's somebody I'm not familiar with, quite frankly, the French lady. And in the other bronze medal match, Julia Kowalczyk of Poland defeated Evelina Elivia of Bulgaria. Now, moving on to the under 100 kilo division, you had Jorge Fonseca of Portugal dancing his way to his first World Judo Championship. He earns his first gold medal on the IJF World Tour by defeating Ilyasov of Russia. And look, walking out, I knew right away who was going to win this match as soon as he walked right out of the entryway onto the runway, onto the mat. I just knew it. You could see it in his eyes. You could see his determination. And the thing I love about George Fonseca is that he's like the Ricky Bobby of judo. He throws big, or he crashes and burns trying to throw big. And that's exactly what he did today. He went for it all, and he was just fantastic in that gold medal final. And kudos to him, too, because he did not have an easy road getting to that final. He had to go through Varlam Lipertiliani in the quarterfinal, and he managed to throw him on his back for Ippon. Finally, he went for a Seoinage, and he managed to switch directions and throw him with like a Kouchigari, I suppose. But slammed him right on his back, and there was no question about it. Now, for the for the bronze medal matches, and I mentioned this before, Aaron Wolf defeated Elmar Gasimov of Azerbaijan. Aaron Wolf representing Japan. Boy, Wolf losing to Guram Cho in the quarterfinals seemed to really knock the wind out of his sails, because I don't know, in that bronze medal match, I know Aaron Wolf wanted to be in the gold in the final, but going for bronze, I wish, if Team USA had anybody that could even sniff a bronze medal at the World Championships, they would be excited, and rightfully so. Aaron Wolf looked like he was shopping for bread at the grocery store, like just completely uninterested and just wanted to get out of there. Now, personally, I like shopping for bread at the grocery store, but Aaron Wolf does not. That much I know. And he doesn't like fighting in bronze medal matches either. So he gets the bronze, and in the other matchup, Michael Corral of the Netherlands ended up defeating Guram Cho, who had defeated Aaron Wolf earlier in the day. I gotta tell you what, the Netherlands had a really good day, or a really good week, I should say. They ended up with a gold medal, 3 bronze medals, a 5th place finish, and 2 7th place finishes. That's fantastic for Netherlands. They've really come along pretty strong, and they did better than a lot of other countries. Now, I want to move on to the plus 78 kilo final and division, which I thought was pretty interesting because, again, it was similar to the plus 100 kilo final in the sense that nobody actually threw anybody, but while I was watching it, it was a really exciting match. And it was a match between Idalis Ortiz of Cuba, who I thought would have won, but she ended up losing to Akira Sone of Japan. Now, I would have normally expected Sarah Asahina in this final, but Asahina ended up losing in the quarterfinals. And, I was mentioning this about Hifumi Abe earlier, and Neil on the telecast was, Neil Adams was talking on the telecast that with Asahina losing and Akira Sone winning, Sarah Asahina may not represent Japan in the plus 78 kilo division in the Olympics next year, which is surprising considering, what kind of player she has been, over the past couple of years in that division. But understandably so, competition is very tough on that Japanese national team, and Japan is going to send who they think. And again, I don't know the process of how they make those decisions, but clearly with Sone of Japan winning the World Championships in the plus 78 kilo division, that's probably going to lock her up even if Asahina wins the All Japan next year in April. I don't know. I just don't know how they pick that, how they make those determinations. If anybody listening does, please feel free to inform me, because I'm curious at how Japan makes those choices. Now, Sarah Asahina did end up getting one of the bronze medals, and unlike Aaron Wolf, she did look interested and motivated in this match. She ended up defeating Maria Athelman of Brazil. And in the other bronze medal match, Kara Saeid of Turkey, who was the one to defeat Asahina in the quarterfinal, defeated Beltrão Souza of Brazil. Now, moving on to the under 60 kilo division, I'm going to admit something to you guys. I didn't watch this division at all. I tried to watch at least the final block every single day of the final block, with the exception of this division, because I'll let you in on a little something. I don't care about the under 60 kilo division that much. I don't know why. It's just like one of those things. I don't care about it. I mean, they've got some great talent. They've put on some exciting matches. I don't know. Hopefully I didn't offend anybody that with that who competes in the under 60 kilo division. It's not personal, just letting you know. So the gold medal final was Lukumi Chikvimiani of Georgia defeating Sharafuddin Luftayev of Uzbekistan. And Chikvimiani won with a beautiful Tayatoshi. And you see, I don't understand. I mean, it was a fantastic throw. I just don't care. I mean, I do care, but I don't. It's not like one of those things. I don't. You know what it is? I don't sit there and say, "Oh, I've got to watch the under 60 kilo final." I don't feel that way like I do about the under 73s or the under 81s. Like I don't have that same excitement for the under 60 kilo division. But the throw to win it, the Tayatoshi, was just a thing of beauty. Now, in one of the bronze medal matches, it was an all Japan matchup with Ryuju Nagayama defeating Naohisa Takato, and the other bronze medal match, it was an all Kazakhstan match of Yeldo Smetov defeating Gusman Kyrgyzbayev, of Kazakhstan, like I just said. Now, I was a little surprised to see that Armian Papinashvili of Georgia did not make it into the final block. He was bounced out in the fourth round by Kyrgyzbayev of Kazakhstan. That's probably the only surprise out of that division for me. Now, moving on to the under 70 kilo division, you had Marie-Eve Gahi of France defeating Barbara Timo of Portugal. Now, I did watch this one live. It was really interesting to see because it's one of those situations where Timo went in for a throw. She, like a Sayanagi, and ended up in the turtle position. But these referees are letting you work. And if you're working on the ground, they're going to let the action go. So Marie-Eve Gahi ended up turning her over and getting the armbar on her. So Marie-Eve Gahi is your gold medal winner. The silver goes to Barbara Timo. In the bronze medal match in this division, Margot Pinot of France defeated Anna Bernholm of Sweden. And in the other bronze medal match, you had Sally Conway of Great Britain defeating Michaela Polaris of Austria. Now, speaking of Austria, I forgot to mention prior to the World Championships that apparently the head coach of the Austrian team was either fired or let go or something happened like that. So I don't know what Austria did with getting a coach to represent that team, but I got to believe that puts some of the athletes behind the eight ball in trying to compete, at the highest level at this event. Now, I'm not very surprised about Sally Conway earning a bronze. I think I mentioned in the last podcast that I expected her to be up there competing. Within the top 7, but bronze does not surprise me. So Great Britain has a very, very strong team on the women's side. Now, the big surprise for me in this division is Chizuru Arai of Japan did not even make it to a medal round. She was the defending world champion from Baku last year, and I believe if I recall correctly, I predicted her to win it again, but she didn't even make it into the final block, and that's very surprising to me. I watched the match that she lost, and I thought, well, maybe she got injured or something. Nope, just ended up losing and ended up getting a couple of Shidos, and she got bounced out. Now, in the final division, I believe I've covered them all. In the under 78 kilo division, you had Madeleine Malgona of France defeating Shori Hamada of Japan. And I got to tell you, I'm left wondering if Hamada can walk after the throw she suffered at the hands of Malgona, because she was thrown for Osotogari. And I imagine kneeling on your knees and then somebody that's under 78 kilos just sitting on top of you while your back is to the ground. I mean, her knees were extended. I'm stunned that she even got up to ray off the mat and they didn't call, somebody with a stretcher. But I guess that's youth for you. I mean, if I was thrown like that, I'd be in traction for a month. I know that much. So Malgona gets the gold medal, Hamada with the silver. Maria Aguilar of Brazil earns one of the bronze medal, defeating Patricia Sampaio of Portugal. Portugal had a nice day, too. I believe they were third in the medal count. That's fantastic for them. And in the other bronze medal match, you had Loriana Kuka of Kosovo defeating Chiara Apotektar of Slovenia. Now, a result that I wanted to take note is Natalie Powell of Great Britain ended up with a 7th place finish. And I also believe that in my previous episode, I believe I mentioned her name thinking that she would be in the top 7. If I didn't say it, I was certainly thinking it. I promise you guys, I was. So I think that's going to do it for the World Championships. Did I forget a division? Let's see. Looking at my notes here. Oh, I did. Sorry about that, guys. The under 90 kilo division was fantastic. And I know this because I did watch it live. Noel van te End of the Netherlands defeated Soichiro Mukai of Japan. And he did so with a beautiful Osotogari to Kosotogari combination that ended up with a score. It wasn't quite the Ippon, but it was certainly a Wazari level score, and that was beautiful judo, I gotta say. Now, the other medal winners, obviously silver going to Mukai. Nemanja Majdov of Serbia defeated Christian Toth of Hungary. And in the other bronze medal match, you have Axel Clerget of France defeating Marcus Nyman of Sweden. Now, figures that Clerget manages to get a medal on a day where I didn't pick him in my fantasy judo lineup. Thanks, Axel. All right, so that's going to be it for my coverage of the World Championships in terms of results. Now, there's a couple of things that I want to discuss about the World Championships, my impression as a whole. The IJF just does a tremendous job. And Japan was a fantastic host city. The opening, like the where people walk through when they're announced for their matches and stuff was just brilliant. They had this. It looked like water falling from an entrance, and then in that water scene or whatever was the athletes' names and their country, and it just was really beautifully done. You have to see it. I can't possibly describe it, but it was really, really well done. The camera work was just spot on. They have this feature where they can do this. They have this like 360 cam where you just kind of it can circle around the athlete. I don't know how they're doing it, but it was just really cool how they used that. Of course, they whether it was Neil or somebody else, they were really playing around with that camera. If somebody was jumping in the air, they were circling 360. It was a lot of fun. I know the IJF had several other live cams going. I didn't watch them. I credit them for trying something new, but I was not interested in watching them. Granted, I think part of the reason is because most of these matches were happening early in the morning for me, and I had to get ready for work, and I was more interested in seeing what the matches were actually of what was actually going on compared to opening up another browser window, and seeing a couple of people doing randori or something like that. I did watch one camera for about 5 minutes after the contest was over. It was kind of cool. It looked like the training area, the staging area for the athletes where they can warm up and stuff, but I didn't see anything there that really captured my attention for any length of time. So the presentation was fantastic. The commentary was fantastic. The refereeing was fantastic. And I'm going to say something here that's probably going to irk a lot of people. When the IJF revised its scoring rules to include Wazari, Awaseti, Ippon, and now all of these scores that used to be Koka are now just all Wazari and things like that. I was critical of that initially. But you know what? When I'm watching this as a spectator, and I'm saying this as a spectator only, I'm liking it. Because what I do is I'm sitting there watching the matches, and all I'm saying to myself, when somebody gets thrown, I say to myself, is that a score or is that not a score? And it's easier for me as a consumer to look at that and say, oh, it's a score, it's not a score. And if it's a score, is it an Ippon or is it just a Wazari? So I guess what I'm saying is that the objective that the IJF had to make watching this easier for the viewer, I think they achieved that. Now that I've really watched just this entire past year and really all of the tournaments that I've been watching, but this particular World Championship really since the last one, but this particular one, I watched more judo live than I have in any other tournament this year. That's for sure. Now, I want to make something perfectly clear. This does not mean that I think the IJF rules should be applied and practiced throughout all levels of judo throughout the world. So for grassroots level judo, I do not think that this is a rule set that is optimal for judo development at a recreational level, at a grassroots level. I am strictly talking about international level competition, and I've made this case before. I'm not going to hammer it too much again, but it is quite possible and very doable to have two separate rules for, you know, the highest levels of competition and everything from national level and below. I don't think that the way that the IGF has these rules is ideal for grassroots judo. I do think what Steve Scott's doing with the freestyle judo, I think, you know, older judo rules that had the Yuko and the Koka and scored Ippon and for a high standard for Ippon and Wazari, I think that is critical for grassroots development. And I think having leg grabs in competition is critical for grassroots development, because again, not a lot of people, or not everyone that starts judo is doing so with the intention of becoming some kind of big time competitor. And I think across the board we need, you know, I think a lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people has to look at judo in a more recreational way instead of looking at a student and wondering how far can you take this kid. So I want to talk about the Ask Vizer. Marius Vizer had a Twitter Q&A post following the World Championships, and there were some interesting questions. It was interesting to see some of the replies and some of the feedback and backlash to Saeid Mollai's issue with not competing in the World Championships. It seems like most people support Saeid Mollaei and his desire to seek asylum. It seems like most people are completely against this terrible Islamic Republic of Iran regime. And I think that's a good thing. I mean, look, I don't want to belabor the point again, but what Iran is doing to Saeid Mollaei, the Iranian judo team, and the rest of their families is horrible. I can't stress that enough. So, kicking off the Twitter Q&A, Mr. Vizer starts off with, we encourage you to read our story and watch our video release regarding the Iran situation before sending a question on this topic. Now, I had already sent my question, and he did answer it, so I'll start with my own Twitter question. Mr. Vizer, can you confirm if it's true that Saeid Mollaei has applied for asylum in Germany? Will there be any action taken against Iran for not sending their team to the Judo World Championships and for breaking their signed agreement? Will Saeid Mollaei compete as a refugee? To that, Mr. Vizer responds, we are starting the procedures after the Judo World Championships and we will act accordingly, but it's as well as legal procedure that has to be followed. So here's an interesting one from @EDUEL, EDEUEL. Why are you not allowing judoka to fight in other combat sports? Mr. Vizer responds, to save the judo principles. Uh-oh, I'm sure that's going to stick in some people's craw. All right, let's see. What's next? Mr. Vizer, I want to come to the Olympics to see as much judo as possible. How can we get tickets now? Mr. Vizer responds, hello, please refer to your National Olympic Committee. Yeah, your National Olympic Committee, who can tell you authorized ticket outlets for the Tokyo 2020 tickets. Philip_Bauer asks in German. I'm not going to read the German, so I'll translate it for you. Are sanctions against the Iranian Federation conceivable, or is this political interference accepted? Mr. Vizer responds, soon the procedure against Iranian Judo Federation will start, and we will act accordingly to our rules, judo principles, and Olympic charter. Now, there was a Twitter response to that post that goes as follows from @Kaveh9182. Pleasure, Mr. Vizer. As Iranian, I'm very happy to hearing that. Offenders must be punished. Hashtag I support Mollaei. Now, the International Judo Federation is now calling itself hashtag I support Mollaei. If you go to twitter.com/judo. Or if you follow @judo, that's the International Judo Federation official Twitter page. And now for their banner, it says #I support Mollaei. And that's great. I think that's it's good that the International Judo Federation is throwing its full support behind Saeid Mollaei and not standing for this and looking to pursue every action possible. Again, I know I'm belaboring this point on Saeid Mollaei, but clearly this is the biggest story coming out of the World Championships. Other Iranians are responding on Twitter that they thank you for their support as well. The situation in Iran is not good, folks. It's just nobody should look at this as an Israel versus Iran thing and take Iran's side. I mean, no person who supports the right of every man, woman, and child to follow their dreams and set goals for themselves. Nobody should be standing with the Iranian government in this instance. And if you do, you simply have hate in your heart. That's where I stand on that. Another Twitter follower asks, and I can't really pronounce the Twitter handle name because it's super long. It's not showing up here. So I'll just pose the question. Compared with years ago, decades perhaps, many times athletes bowing to each other don't match. Similar procedure is respected much in sumo. Some athletes don't bow when entering and leaving the tatami. My concern is too old-fashioned? ? Mr. Vizer responds, the athletes and the coaches are respecting the rules, but to be sincere in sensitive moments of victory or losing, the intensity of the bow is very much different. The bow is an essential part of judo. Which again goes back to my issue with the Egyptian not bowing to Sagimuki when he lost. Now here's an interesting question again about Saeid Mollaei. Once Mollaei will start to represent the refugees team, will his ranking points be restored to 0, or will he be able to keep the points that he's earned under the Iranian flag? That's an excellent question. Mr. Vizer responds, we will do our best to protect the results. I don't know what your best is. And I don't know why one would say that we'll do our best to do it, because it almost implies like there's a chance where that might not happen. Perhaps that's a situation where the International Olympic Committee is looking at this situation and they say, well, he didn't earn these points under the refugee flag. I hope that doesn't happen. But I would think as a sports organization, the IJF will do everything in its power to ensure that Saeid Mollaei keeps his ranking and his points. Here's another interesting question, unrelated to Saeid Mollaei, asked by @DKuti82. What are the plans to help judo grow in sub-Saharan Africa? For clarification purposes, the IJF supported Nigeria Judo Federation with cash or equipment in the past 6 years. Mr. Vizer responds, we have supported them, but the problem with the Nigerian judo is that they are sending visa applications to different sport events for a lot of the people which are not at the level of the IJF tour and not necessarily traveling with sporting intentions. I wonder what that means. @Judo Inside asks, compliments with the TV coverage. As a commentator of Eurosport, the fans really enjoyed the Worlds. What can be done more to spice up long injury time? #AskVizer. 360 cam was nice. Kiss cam, dance cam is maybe too far from judo. Stats nice, but more variation. Mr. Vizer responds, we implemented new TV graphics at the Judo World Championships, provided additional information for such occasions. We are actively working to optimize coverage. Again, let me tell you, from a production value, man, the IJF is up there with regards to the NFL, the NBA. In terms of covering the sport and doing all the nice little extras, they do a fantastic job. I mean, maybe I'd like to see a little more pizzazz in some of the entries, but other than that, as far as covering the sport and putting it on YouTube for anybody to watch, it's really a great thing. They do a fantastic job. Now, Hans, I'm not sure if you're listening to this. You work for Eurosport? Did I get that right? You comment on Eurosport for judo? I didn't know that. And if that's true, that's pretty cool. That's fantastic. Can anybody else confirm whether Hans Van Essen of JudoInside.com is a commentator for Eurosport, and if I understood that correctly? Thank you. @RightJudgeIM asks, Can you urgently address the inconsistent application of the passivity warning that was seen in this event? Mr. Vizer responds, of course, everyone can appreciate their own way, but the referees just apply the rules. He responds again, right, Judge, right, Judge, I am. I kept a list of contests to compare. Where can I send it for examination of the problem? Mr. Vizer responds, you can send to president@ijf.org, and we will forward to that department. Thank you for your interest. Yeah, I'm sure your email is going to end up in the spam folder or just straight to trash. But that being said, I think the referees got the call right 99% of the time, but I believe the person asking this question does kind of have a valid point. There were certain contests, I'm thinking of the plus 78 and the plus 100 kilo contest finals, the gold medal matches, where passivity calls were not being made. And I respect the fact that the referees and the IJF want the athletes to determine the outcome of the match as much as possible. But there was a sense of inconsistency. But I think that goes with all sports. I mean, take basketball, for example. Unless it's blatantly obvious, no referee is going to call, a traveling violation in Game 7 of the NBA Finals. You know what I mean? They're not going to call that with 2 minutes left to go in the NBA Finals, unless it's just blatantly obvious. And I do think that when it comes to all sports, there is room for referees, judges, officials bending the rules a little bit to allow the athletes to determine the outcome of the match on their own. All right, let's see. Scanning through the questions here. Oh, here's an interesting one. Did I read this already? If I did, I apologize. I'm going to read it again if I did. We have been reading a lot about the drama surrounding Saeid Mollaei, but there was no comment from the IJF about Fethi Nourine, the Algerian judoka who didn't show up for the fight against Tohar Boutboul. Are you going to sanction the Algerian Federation for political boycott? Mr. Vizer responds, the Algerian case will be as well a case of the Ethics Commission. That's interesting, and I agree with the general premise of the person asking the question. We don't want to turn this issue with Iran into an Iran-only issue. If there are other countries and other federations pulling the same kind of stunts, the IJF needs to go after those countries equally as hard as well. So there were a lot of other questions, but they really all surrounded the issue with Saeid Mollaei and Iran, and I'm simply not going to respond and read to all of them because I feel like I've covered that almost ad nauseum. I just think the IJF's handling it the right way, and I think I've covered it to the best of my ability. The story fully and thoroughly. I don't think I've left any stone unturned. And if you have any questions regarding any of this or anything that I said on the podcast, or if you have thoughts or opinions, or you just want to tell me off, you can send me an email at judochopsuey@gmail.com. You can follow me on Instagram at La Vida Judoka. My Instagram is awesome. You can also follow me on Twitter at La Vida Judoka. And if you want to find me on Facebook, you can also search for me, the Judo Chop Suey podcast. And if you're brave enough, you can send me a friend request to my personal account. But again, there are friend requests sitting in purgatory friend requests, whatever you want to call it, because I will not respond to people I don't know personally unless they send me a personal message saying, hey, I listened to the podcast. I think you're awesome. You're such a handsome man. You got to say something like that to let me know that you're actually listening to the podcast before I accept you on my personal Facebook page, which, by the way, in terms of social media, that's like the worst one of them all. All right, so I think that's going to do it for this episode of the Judo Chop Suey podcast. On my next episode, I'm going to bore most of you all. It's going to be a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu-centric episode, and I have my reasons for that.
That's like the gayest sport there is.
All right, now wait a minute. I don't know how that soundbite got in there. I'm sorry, folks. I don't feel that way one bit about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I'm going to have a guest on to talk Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I want to use the episode as a means to dispel some of the myths and some of the ridiculous opinions out there surrounding Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So it's gonna be very Jiu-Jitsu centric. Of course, if there's any breaking news judo related that is specific to Saeid, Mollaei, or anything happening on the IJF World Tour, I am going to cover that. But I just want to give you all a heads up. This will be Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu centric, my next episode. So with that, I hope you all have a great day. I hope you all have a great rest of the week. Train hard. Stay safe out there. And until next time, I'm out.
Oppan Gangnam Style.